What if a candidate won an election by promising no more wars, and then once in power moved the country closer to one? Was it betrayal? Was it necessity? Or is it something deeper that's happening inside the system itself? Because the truth might be this: it may not matter who becomes president, the system might push every president toward the same decision. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand 3 things most political commentary completely misses. First, why the anti-war message in 2016 resonated with millions of voters. Second, what changes the moment someone walks into the Oval Office. And third, the structural reality of power that explains why every president eventually ends up using military force. Because this isn't really about Trump or Democrats or Republicans. It's about something far bigger: the hidden incentives of the presidency itself. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Welcome to I Break Boundaries. So stay with me, because by the end, you'll see why every president, regardless of party, ends up in the same wars. Let me take you back to 2016. One of the most powerful political messages of that election was simple: America is tired of war, and the people supported it. And one candidate tapped into that exhaustion perfectly. After Iraq, after Afghanistan, after trillions of dollars and thousands of lives, Americans had enough. Many voters wanted something different, and Donald Trump gave them that message. He told them what they wanted to hear. His rhetoric wasn't subtle. No more forever wars. Stop being the world's police. America first, not the Middle East first. For many voters, that message felt like a break from tradition, a rejection of the Washington playbook, a promise to finally bring the troops home. And then it worked, because it created something unusual in American politics. Anti-war conservatives, a coalition that hadn't existed in decades. People who voted Republican because they wanted to end military intervention. 20 years in the Middle East. But here's where things get complicated. Campaign promises exist in one environment. Presidential decisions exist in another. Let me show you what changes the moment someone takes power. When you're running for office, the incentive is clear. Win votes. Tell people what they want to hear. Speak to their frustrations. And promise change. But once you become president, the incentives flip. Now you're sitting inside the most powerful military apparatus on earth. You're surrounded by intelligence briefings, national security advisors, military planners, threat assessments, all of them focused on danger, all of them presenting scenarios where inaction has consequences. And in that environment, the logic shifts. The question stops being, should America avoid conflict? And it becomes, what happens if we don't act? Campaign promises exist in one environment. Presidential decisions exist in another. And the incentives flip the moment you take power. Now let's talk about Iran. Iran has been a central tension in the Middle East for decades. And after Trump took office, that tension continued to escalate. Regional influence, nuclear ambitions, proxy conflicts, drone strikes, assassinations. Everything top secret. Public knowledge is limited. All of these factors create pressure for confrontation. And when the United States becomes involved militarily with Iran, critics see something alarming. They see the exact kind of conflict that voters thought they were rejecting. And they ask a simple question. If a candidate had said during the campaign, once I'm president, the United States may go to war with Iran, would the election have turned out the same? Maybe, maybe not. But it's a question that sits at the heart of the debate. If Trump had said we're going to war with Iran during the campaign, would he have won? That's the bait and switch question. Critics, here's how they say it works. Step 1, campaign on ending wars. Step 2, once elected, justify a new conflict as necessary. Step 3, voters who supported you based on peace now have to defend military action. In their view, the anti-war message built support. But once power was secured, the policy shifted. Supporters of Trump reject that interpretation entirely. They argue this isn't a forever war. This is preventing a bigger conflict. This is stopping nuclear threats. This is protecting allies. From that perspective, the campaign promise wasn't broken. It was adapted to reality. Critics call it bait and switch. Supporters call it adapting to reality. Both can't be right, or can they? But zoom out for a moment, because something interesting happens in American politics. Almost every president campaigns on restraint, and almost every president ends up using military force. Bush was compassionate conservatism, which led to the Iraq War. Obama said, end the wars, which led to Libya, Syria, Yemen drone strikes. Trump said, no forever wars, which led to Iran escalation. Biden was diplomacy first, and he continued Middle East operations. Different rhetoric, different strategies, same structural pressures. Because once you sit in the Oval Office, you inherit something that doesn't change with elections. You inherit global alliances, military commitments, intelligence warnings, regional conflicts, the entire national security apparatus. In other words, you inherit a system that pushes toward intervention, which raises a deeper question. Maybe the problem isn't one politician breaking a promise. Maybe the problem is that the presidency itself changes the incentive. Every president campaigns on peace. Every president ends up in war. Maybe the problem isn't the politician. Maybe it's the system. There's also a psychological dynamic here. Voters want two things at the same time, and those two things contradict each other. Voters want peace and security, but these goals contradict. So candidates promise restraint, then govern with force. So here's what's really happening. It's not just Trump. It's not just Republicans. It's not just Democrats. It's the structure of American power itself. The presidency, it comes with the largest military in history. Intelligence agencies focused on threats. Advisors trained to see intervention as necessary. A political system that punishes weakness. And those incentives don't disappear when a new president takes office. They just get transferred to the next person. So when critics ask, why did Trump abandon his promise? The answer might be because every president does. Because the system makes it almost impossible not to. You're welcome. The presidency comes with the largest military in history, and advisors who see intervention as necessary. Those incentives don't change with elections. Now here's the part I promised you at the beginning, the thing that changes everything. This pattern doesn't just apply to foreign policy. It applies to almost every major campaign promise. Drain the swamp, appoint insiders, end corruption, accept donations, reform healthcare, preserve the system, close Guantanamo, keep it open, reduce the deficit, increase spending. Different promises, same pattern. Have you noticed? The gap between campaign promises and governing reality isn't a flaw in the system. It is the system. Candidates promise change. Presidents preserve power. So the real question isn't, did one president break a promise? The real question is something much bigger. Is it even possible for a modern president to avoid war at all? Because every election we hear the same promise. End the wars. Bring the troops home. America first. And yet, every administration eventually faces the same pressures, the same threats, the same decisions, which means the next election will feature the same promise again, and again. And the same cycle will repeat over and over until voters understand something uncomfortable. The problem might not be the politician. It might be the system that they inherit. Every election features the same promise, end the wars. But when someone takes office, the incentives don't change. The problem isn't who wins. It's what winning requires you to become. If you enjoy breakdowns that go deeper than headlines, subscribe to I Break Boundaries, because here we don't just analyze politics. We analyze power, incentives, and the systems underneath the story. And if you want to see why democracy and empire may be fundamentally incompatible, watch the next video on your screen, because that question changes everything. Stay curious, stay fearless, and keep breaking boundaries.